Hi everyone, welcome to our latest social media live that we're doing today. So I'm delighted to say I'm here with Stuart Mitchell today, and I'll get Stuart to introduce himself in a few seconds. But today we're going to talk about hybrid events. We know how much the events industry has changed in the last 12 months, so we're going to kind of discuss all that and kind of what we see in the future. If you do have any questions or comments about the events, or like I said, hybrid events, please do put them in the various comment boxes on whatever social media platform you're watching this on, and we'll try and get through as many of those as possible. I do know that a lot of people watch this following the live as well, so if you please feel free to still put something in the comments box, because whether it's Stuart or myself, we'll answer that at a later date. We'll make sure we come back to you if you don't manage to be on the live video. So yeah, without further ado, I'll ask Stuart. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself and tell you about what you do, Stuart?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be with you, Michael, and to join the Northern Affinity. So thank you very much for letting me join you today. My name's Stuart Mitchell. I am Managing Director of a company called Catch the Mice Limited. I'm not a rodent officer. I don't catch mice for a living. I look after the meetings, incentives, conferences and events market. So I am about everything events and have done all through my career. My background, I studied at Surrey University as an engineer, and I wasn't clever enough to be an engineer, to be honest. All my very clever friends went into electronics. I went into hospitality because all my buddies were on the hospitality degree course, and I've spent pretty much my whole career in events, from being a late teenager, blagging that I could silver serve as a box waiter at Wembley Stadium and the Oval Cricket Ground and that sort of thing, all the way through to where I am now. Just a couple of highlights of my career. I was general manager of the Oval Cricket Ground, the public catering side of that. I've worked at Wembley Stadium. I've also been general manager at GMEX, which is now Manchester Central. And I've also clashed swords with Jamie Oliver in a previous life as a big school dinner lady, as National Ops Director for Compass Group. In the last 10, 15 years, I've had a couple of consultancies, and I've worked with a couple of consultancies which have represented privately owned hotels, independent hotels, top end of the market predominantly, private islands, some amazing venues all over the world. And I've introduced event organisers to those properties and help them deliver some amazing events, both meetings, incentives and top end conferences and such like. And in the last year, that's kind of crashed through the floor. So that's why we want to discuss what we're going to do as we re-emerge into the live events market. So that's just a bit of a background of who I am and what I've done. I'm here to help.
That's great, Stuart. Thank you for that kind of background. So yeah, you touched on it there. Obviously, the events industry has been one of those really badly hit, along with a few others in the last 12 months. Do you want to kind of summarize your thoughts? I don't think we need to go over all ground in terms of the impact. I think most people know that, but kind of how you see things have kind of happened and what the changes are and what's the future really, I guess, for events in the coming years.
I think it's been devastated, let's be honest, and that's across the board. I was in Berlin for ITB in March last year, literally just before lockdown happened and we were all called back and everything was cancelled. At that point, just events fell off a cliff. Everyone that had events planned was postponing it. I think we all thought it was going to be back to normal in September last year. It just didn't. And then, the restraints we've been under, quite rightly, in terms of lockdown, have had a massive effect on the events industry. I think everyone understands the reasons for it, but it's been a sector that's been devastated. And I do some charity work within the festival sector as well, raising money for various hospices and things like that. And those people have been the forgotten ones as well. A lot of the technicians, a lot of the AV supports, a lot of the roadies that have supported these live events outside, they've also kind of been just forgotten about. So there's been a strong movement. I think anyone that's in events will have heard about it. Obviously, it's been in the media. But yeah, the live events industry has just been devastated. I've been doing some work over the last 6 months with Eventwell, which is our charity, our mental health charity or wellbeing charity for the sector, to try and support the team with some fundraising because of it. And we've lost a lot of really good talent that's had to adapt and survive over the last 8 months, and have had to go and look for jobs elsewhere. So I think we're facing a double whammy. Not only are we facing a kind of a new way of operating, but also we've lost a lot of talent from the industry, and it's gonna be a very, very tough resurgence for live events. And I'm really pleased that Boris has made his announcement, and we have some sort of roadmap. I think we've all got to take that with a pinch of salt, that it's 1 step forward and 3 steps back. But it's definitely going to be a new world for the events industry.
Absolutely. And I mean, I was gonna say, Stuart, kind of on the subject of what we're going to talk about today, hybrid events. How do you kind of see all that fitting into the future, I guess, in both the short and the longer term, actually?
I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be exciting. I think that I'm always optimistic. Anyone that knows me, I'm a half full guy rather than a half empty guy. But things have had to change. I mean, everyone's had to adapt. A lot of the smaller agencies, the smaller venue finding agencies that have had to mothball their business and downsize their business significantly and put all of their staff into a furlough holding position, can slightly bring them back. But when are we going to get travel? When are the travel corridors going to open? So are we looking at a domestic market first for events? Are we looking at a lot of the availability, for example? We're looking at, probably realistically, for organizing events, a big event will be 2, 3, 6 months out. And so I think everyone is also cautious that this roadmap is going to move. So no one's really looking at the 21st of June, which is the official date. I think we're all allegedly hoping for. It's probably Q3 at the very earliest, Q4 probably, and more likely, in my view, probably 2022, when any big events will be coming forward. So if you take a year of events that has been postponed, and commercially a lot of money's been put into to funding those events have been postponed and rebooked and postponed and rebooked and postponed and rebooked. And so they've been pushed into Q3, Q4 this year. So I think we're going to have an element of availability being the major issue. So anyone that's booking a big event of 300 people plus is going to struggle to find a venue. And as I said earlier, a lot of the hotels have had all of their staff on furlough to operate those events, when we're going to have a resource issue as well. So it's almost a perfect storm.
Do you think there might be a difference in events wise from, say, you've got things like sporting events, music events, which are, I guess you term under general public would be the attendees, and then you've got, I guess, the business corporate thing. So there might be, I think my gut feeling would be more likely to get the big sporting events, the big music events happening quicker, because businesses will be less, should we say, they'll take a risk-based view of sending their staff to an event, whatever that may be. They're probably not going to do that in the short term. Would you think that might be the case?
You're absolutely right. I had a conversation with a client early this week, actually, where the corporate client is happy enough to host an event, but the sponsors of the event, it was a pharmaceutical event, the sponsors are very mindful of the perception of a potential outbreak at the conference, and the corporate governance of that and the risk to it. So I think they are pushing back a little bit, even if corporate events will actually go forward. So it may well go online, or it might be a smaller event in a region and a country, and then the rest of it be transmitted digitally overnight. You touched on football. That's a really good point. I had a conversation again with another gentleman I've been working with, a guy called Martin Walsh, who was actually, or still is, the bass guitarist of the Inspiral Carpets, big hero of mine from Manchester. And we were talking about football, and it's interesting because football has always, we can actually see football as a hybrid event. because what you're there you're in the stands, you're actually in as a live punter in that sort of environment. And then we've also got the public back home watching it on a TV, but not using a formal platform, but using Twitter as the commentary box. So we've had hybrid for a long time, but it's not been called that sort of thing. So it's a different way of approaching, hybrid events. And we were talking about how that might develop, and you might be able to, if you went onto a platform, and of course everyone's watching football now on the tablets and on different formats and through the internet. So you might actually have a different type of ticket. So you could have your Sky Plus, Premium, or whatever you want to call it, and you might be have a one-to-one with a punter that tells you how they've been practicing the corners, or they've been practicing the event. So you almost get an enhanced the visual, an enhanced experience, but you pay for a higher ticket. And I think there are some huge opportunities for people, marketeers and businesses, to look at different scales of hybrid, as well as then the live event where you're actually smelling it, tasting it, and having a pie at the interval.
No, absolutely, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how all that plays out. So I just want to quickly ask you about, I know you've got an event on Friday, Hybrid Futures, which is kind of, I guess, going to be a bigger and more detailed conversation about all this. Do you want to kind of tell everyone, I'll put the link in the comments for everyone, but do you want to tell us about the event and what it's all about?
Yes, no, sure. I've had to adapt my business to try and work online, and I'm working with a client that's it's actually a platform that are supporting and sponsoring this event on Friday. And they called me in to do a little chat, and I'm actually going to go to a TV studio. It's one of my first times to be into a TV studio and actually be on a live stage with all the TV cameras and the TV crew there. So I'm quite excited about it, to be honest, and it's going to be like going to a real event. But yes, there's a Hybrid Futures event, which is sponsored by Intelligo, which is one of the platforms I'm working with. And that's on Friday from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. I think we've got quite a lot of content, 2 different stages, and a lot of very, very competent speakers to talk about the industry and how they see it going forward. So yeah, please tune in, and yeah, the link I think will be posted afterwards. So thank you.
No, absolutely. No, I'll put the link in, and if anyone wants to find out more about it, just let us know. If you don't see the link here or whatever, I'm more than happy to pass that on. So in relation to hybrid events, what do you think makes a good hybrid event? What do you need to do to make that?
Oh my goodness, Michael, that's a really difficult question, because I think it's almost a lot of event organizers have got the skill set to do it, but because they haven't done it before, it's almost like a dark art, and no one wants to make a complete and not a pig's ear of it. So we've all, well, in fact, I'd never been on Zoom before sort of March last year, and I dabbled a little bit in Skype, but we've all got used to using Zoom in the last year. So if you can use Zoom, you can use, or Teams, you can use an element of virtual, and you can adapt it to hybrid. But there's no doubt about it, a virtual event is very different to a real event. So you're going to have a skill set which can deliver the virtual event, and a skill set that can deliver the live event. And getting the two together to integrate it, to make sure that the customers or the delegates that are there in a live environment get the same feeling and passion as someone that's sitting in their back room watching it on a tablet, or someone that's walking down the high street that using their mobile phone. So it's going to be difficult, and I think the key thing is to make sure the content's good, and the technology is good to be able to support it. And I have a feeling the key thing is going to be the marketers. I think there's a massive opportunity for digital marketeers to be able to support this and make sure that they optimize the number of viewers that are actually attending, because there's no doubt about it, it's going to be a cost saving in terms of the getting more delegates to see your content, and you'll have the virtual platform, which will still cost, but the number of viewers, the cost per view is going to be significantly lower. But unless you've got those viewers engaged, then you've got a problem. Again, I was speaking to a client last week actually that are running a hybrid event in London in September, and they're wanting to bring in a hybrid AV team to run a virtual stage, so a stage which will become a real stage, but it then is also a virtual stage and can be broadcast. And the costs associated with that are quite significant. And that's just one venue. Let's say this is replicated in the UK, or maybe even regionally in the UK. You have one in Scotland, one in London, maybe one in Berlin. You've got all of these costs which are suddenly being replicated in different places, albeit from an environmental point of view, you're saving on the cost of the delegates having to fly to the venues, you're saving on the cost of the accommodation. So although actually when you're looking at it from a budget holder's perspective, and it tends to be centrally budgeted, you've got quite high costs. But again, you equate it to a per user. If it's a £50 a head user cost, actually that's nothing. It doesn't even cover the cost of the hotel. It doesn't cover the expenses on the dinner and drinks in the evening. So it's all relative, and it means that you've got to think about how you optimize and maximize your return on the investment. I think there's an interesting point here. Sorry to go on. There's an interesting point. It gives you it gives hotels that have never been perceived global conference hotels a real opportunity. And I think anyone that's a hotelier that runs a hotel should consider the opportunity that is literally in front of you. If you have a boutique hotel that's maybe been a wedding venue or a fine dining venue or a spa venue that's never really dabbled in the world of corporate events, if you've got a small room, a small function suite for 25 people, and you could set up a small little virtual studio in there and invite the senior board to that event, maybe 10 people, and you've got your opportunity for a virtual event, a hybrid event, because you've got the board together to have a board meeting, you've got a board to bounce ideas off, but you can then globally transmit that to either your regional teams around the UK or your regional teams around Europe or globally across the world. It gives some huge opportunities. So I think there's an opportunity for hotels to reinvent themselves and or venues to reinvent themselves.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of changes from the last 12 months, and that could be one of them. And one of the last questions I have, I guess, is that around challenges in terms of hybrid events. I guess, generically speaking, you talk about the technology. But in my eyes, when you got a in-person event, 95% of the organization is in advance of the meeting. It's all the stuff that needs to go, the logistics, should we say. Whereas it feels like a lot for when the events are online, it's more of a 50-50 split. There's kind of got to be on the time, ready, there as things happen, reacting. Does that sound accurate, do you think?
I think you're absolutely right. I'm going to say it's easy to do a live event, but it's easier to get a live event because you've got all your speakers, for example, that would fly in the night before, meet in the bar, get to know each other and have a chin wag, and then you're actually getting to the green room ready to go on stage, or the production office, however you host however grand your live event is. When you're in a virtual environment, you've got all the technical issues to deal with. You've got we've seen it on television, someone's child coming into the room where you're presenting. You've got broadband issues. You've got someone maybe that's working from home and suddenly all their kids go online and they're gaming through Twitch or whatever, and it drops the internet. The other key thing is also you tend to use platforms, for want of a better word, with a private chat, back of house chat. It's almost like a front of house, back of house hotel operation. Yeah. but if that goes down or something doesn't quite work, it's not that you're all in the same room to say, where's Fred gone? I can't find Fred. When they're in a kind of cloud environment, where is Fred? And so it's very difficult to get your speaker ready to queued up, ready to go. So there are different challenges, I think, is the way forward, and you have to have a sort of contingency, a backup contingency, to be able to manage it, whether that's WhatsApp group or something like that, and you communicate by a kind of a second party as backup. But yeah, no, it's pre-marketing, and then of course the great thing with hybrid is post event. If you've got a real event and you've got a delegate that's gone into the plenary session and a breakout session and maybe picked up a brochure from a sponsor's booth, it's very difficult to track what that delegate has actually done. In a live environment, in a virtual environment and a hybrid environment, you can track every click. So everyone that's clicked on a link or has clicked on a sponsor's link or had a chat with their buddies online, all of that is recorded. And that's really, really crucial marketing material after the event. And so those are the people, those salespeople are going to use that as absolute gold dust, which is vitally important to deliver return on investment.
Absolutely, Stuart. No, thank you. That's great, and that's really interesting insight into kind of events and virtual events and hybrid events as we go forward. I think you'll agree, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, because it's kind of a little bit of guesswork at the moment. Time, like you said, timings and everything like that. So one last thing from me, Stuart. If anyone wants to kind of get a hold of you and find out a bit more about what you do, where's the best places to go?
Well, best place is to go onto my website, catchthemice.com. Give me a call. Email is probably best. Direct mail me with anything. Stuart, Stuart @catchthemice.com. But before I finish, I'm just going to say one thing. If we've got any students that are studying event management, watching at the moment, I think they've had the hard time. They've had no real experience. I've been doing a bit of mentoring with some students, and if they've had no live event experience to be able to do some work together. If anyone wants to reach out, if anyone's got any concerns about the industry going forward, I think the opportunities are really out there at the moment to move into a slightly different field rather than traditional events. All of us have to adapt. And if anyone wants any advice, genuine advice or support, pick up the phone or DM me on my LinkedIn profile. We can pop that on as well afterwards in the comments box. That'd be great. I'm there to help, and I really want to see our industry thrive as we go into this newfound world and adapt to new ways of working.
I think that's what we offer, Stuart, and really, really kind. I'll put the LinkedIn profile in now for people. So thank you very much for that offer, and on behalf of other people, that's fantastic. I'm sure people who could benefit from your experience and knowledge in that area. So yeah, like I said, if people are watching this not live and watching it on playback, I know many people do. As you've seen there, Stuart's very open to be contacted, and if for whatever reason you can't find Stuart, I'm sure you can, but please do let us know the Northern Affinity, and I'll put you in contact. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and finally, Stuart, thank you very much for your time, and obviously your kind offer as well. It's really appreciated.
Well, anything I can do. I've worked in the events industry all my career, and I've seen how it's had its challenges, and I really hope that I can be part of the solution and help fellow event professionals. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks everyone. Bye.